What's a book everyone should read at least once in their lives? The Phantom Tollbooth. Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl. Surprised I haven't seen it here already, so I'll add it. The Brothers Karamazov by Dostoevsky. In Slaughterhouse-Five, Vonnegut said it could teach everything that we needed to know about life, except that wasn't enough anymore. Johnny's Got His Gun. It's so intense. But it's so good. Metallica's Song 1 is based off this book. Guy has his arms and legs blown off, goes blind and deaf, and is left to live like that. I only read it once, but it's forever ingrained into my memory. It hits you like a freight train. Announcement for a lot of people reading this thread. Many of the books mentioned here are in the public domain and in audiobook form. Go through YouTube, Random House, Audible, Overdrive for all the classical goodness you want. It almost totally eliminates the financial time commitment that many will cite for not picking them up. I listen to books on double speed all the damn time. I am working my way through A Tale of Two Cities now. All Quiet on the Western Front. Everyone should have to reckon with the reality of what war actually means. Night. By Elie Wiesel. It is absolutely heart-wrenching. And I hated every moment of reading it, which is exactly the effect it is supposed to have. The Westing Game. The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. Such a great book. All Quiet on the Western Front. Knocks any silly ideas you may have had about war being glamorous or exciting right out of your frocking head. I read it when I was 10. I didn't even really like playing war after that. Edit. Thanks for the awards. I figured this would be buried when I posted it. I'm glad so many people agree. This book should be mandatory reading in every high school on earth. The Giver. That book made my 9 to 10-year-old mind really think about what was important in society. It was the first time the idea of good things having a negative consequence was presented to me. I think what makes it work is that we are learning how this whole society really works alongside a character who has lived in it his whole life. As the facade of the utopian society begins to fall away to show devastating consequences of the perfect life in society, the reader not only feels their shock but the main character's shock. This was a book I read in school 4 times, once in 5th grade and once in 10th for English, and then in both high school and college sociology classes. This book, written for 9 to 13-year-olds, made for great discussions. Matilda or Witches by Roald Dahl. Catch-22. The Grapes of Wrath and/or of Mice and Men. Both are heartbreaking, but not for the sake of being heartbreaking. Instead, they provide a glimpse of how freaking hard life can be, but also how beautiful it can be. War and Peace. I love that book. There are no villains. Just people with good and bad in them, like all of us. I think sometimes that almost everyone I have ever met has been like one of the characters in War and Peace. Flowers for Algernon. Watership Down. Super Late to the Party. But the Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. His plays are great too if you're looking for less serious and lighter reads. The Stranger by Albert Camus. The Princess Bride. My friends and I read this in high school in 1977. Everyone had a favorite part, literally something for everyone. When the movie came out I was happy. And I love it too. But the book has so much more. Frankenstein. It's a classic for a reason and no movie adaptation has ever really done it justice. Crime and Punishment. Dostoevsky. May sound weird but I really enjoyed The Last Unicorn by Peter S. Beagle. Brave New World. A Driver's Education Manual. Use Your Blinkers, Megan. A Short History of Nearly Everything by Bill Bryson. Treasure Island. Still holds up and is very fun. The Outsiders. The Very Hungry Caterpillar by Eric Carle. Edit. Well, this blew up. Thanks for all the awards, kind strangers. I know this book isn't like the other great novels listed, but it definitely brings me back to when I was a kid and my parents read it to me. The Hobbit. It's just such a nice book. My dad always told us that it was really important to read How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie before we turned 18 years old. I am 29 and I have still not read it, by the way, but my dad says it's good. And then there were None by Agatha Christie. A quick and mind-stimulating read that will keep you engaged throughout. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. To Kill a Mockingbird. Journey to the Center of the Earth. It's just for any age. The Demon-Haunted World by Carl Sagan. Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee. It's a book about Native Americans. Best thing I've ever read. If there is one novel you should read before you die, it is Don Quixote. The Nigerian author Ben Okri said at the Norwegian Nobel Institute as he announced the results of history's most expansive authors poll, Don Quixote has the most wonderful and elaborated story. Yet it is simple. Gonna say. The Road. By Cormac McCarthy, because people need to be reminded of the thin veneer of civilization and not take it for granted. 10. 2K comments. No one is going to see this. But, The Jungle by Upton Sinclair. It's about how immigrants were exploited in early America, and their harsh working conditions. I still think about this book from time to time, and it's been about 15 years since I've read it. The Martian Chronicles by R. Bradbury. A cycle of short stories which is accessible, adventurous and humanizing. The Giver. I feel really teaches compassion that many people need. Dracula. One of the first horror novels to successfully use the reader's own imagination and to really build suspense, told through diaries and accounts from characters within the story rather than an omniscient narrator. I read it in one night. Small Gods by Terry Pratchett. Good Omens. Number the Stars. The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. Don Quixote fueled my optimism as a college student, and showed how your own madness can affect the world around you. Animal Farm. A Child Called It, by Dave Pelzer. It's a very NSFW book depicting many graphic cases of child abuse. That being said, if you are uncomfortable with that sort of thing, probably don't read it. It's a phenomenal book about a young boy, around 10 IIRC, it's been a few years, who is abused horrifically by his mother and struggles to survive her hatred. Definitely made me cry a few times and is the only book I have ever read more than once. The Trial by Kafka. Holes. Fahrenheit 451. The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini. Going to Suggestive Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. A real eye-opener about how grim the Great Depression was. The Lord of the Ring series. There is so much that is left out of the movies. Anna Karenina, it's an absolute monster of a book. Don't be put off by the fact it's by Tolstoy. Aside from keeping track of the names, it's a pretty easy read. I can't think of any book that encapsulates so many events and so many lives. It's brilliant. All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. Kite Runner. To Kill a Mockingbird. God of Small Things. And for the romantics, Pride and Prejudice. D. Edit. You people are so kind. I love you. I had to edit this comment to add that I love 1,000 Splendid Suns. English is not my mother tongue, yet I finished it in less than 2 days. I sobbed and was broken for quite a long time, so I didn't add it to my must-read book list. D. The Silmarillion. Nah, just kidding. The Road by Cormac McCarthy. It's terrific and terrifying. Kind of like a great Black Mirror episode. Hard to put down but scared to turn the next page. Slaughterhouse-Five. Hyperion by Dan Simmons if you are interested in an incredible sci-fi series, or The Terror by the same author if you like 1800s hyper-realistic Arctic horror. Watership Down. Love it as much in my 20s as I did reading it the first time at 13. Don't let the fact it revolves almost entirely around a group of talking bunnies put you off. It was categorized on publication as a children's book. But there is no reason why adults can't enjoy it, especially because there is an underlying allegory of tyranny at play that can be lost on children and really engages you in a way that a very overt story about injustice, politics might not in a context with humans. If you enjoy excellent character development and themes of teamwork, friendship, and a primacy of courage, give it a shot. Watership Down will always be the book I know I could reach for when I want to salvage some hope when it feels lost. We need to talk about Kevin, and Amazing, and Dosterbing. Look at one mother's relationship, negative and positive, with her son. The Jungle by Upton Sinclair. A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Betty Smith. It's a coming-of-age story about a young girl growing up in early 20th century Brooklyn, and it is both poignant and heart-wrenching. There is one particular passage from the book that affected me greatly when I first read it, and it still does to this day. The last time of anything has the poignancy of death itself. This that I see now. She thought, to see no more this way. Oh. The last time how clearly you see everything, as though a magnifying light had been turned on it, and you grieve because you hadn't held it tighter when you had it every day. What had Grandma Mary Romilly said? To look at everything always as though you were seeing it either for the first or last time. Thus is your time on earth filled with glory. Single quote. Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil by John Berendt, and Then Go Visit Savannah, because it is lovely. Also A Movable Feast by Hemingway. Bridge to Terabithia tore me up as a child. How to Tell If Your Cat is Plotting to Kill You. Yes, it's a real book. Where the Red Fern Grows. I've read it to each of my kids. My daughter is too young to read it to now at the age of 6, but I'll be reading it to her as well.